Thank you for being with us. This is Said Gordon and DOF Creations with our Service-Driven University session. We have a conversation today with Superintendent Hughes and Henry Martin from the Walton County School District. I believe ranked number 3 in the state, if I'm not mistaken. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct, Superintendent? Yes, sir.
We're ranked number three in one area and number two in the other.
Okay. All right. And always climbing a little bit higher. Um,
Absolutely.
So the reason why we wanted to have this conversation was we were actually speaking to another school district in North Florida, and they were talking about the work that you've done, Henry, and kind of using you as an example, the way that you've, built buy-in, the changes that they've seen you make from a technology perspective for your district, and trying to emulate those things. For those listening or for those watching, you may remember the conversation with the CIO that we had last year with Henry, and Henry talked about the work that he's done from the CIO position to try to support his district. And with all of the growth and change that we've seen from Walton County Schools, how you guys have just shot up the ranks from a state education perspective, I thought it would be great to discuss the role of leadership and technology from an organization's perspective. And then also, what is it that technology are doing to try to marry those goals of growth and change and evolution and what we're seeing in education today and how that can be a benefit to students. So for the both of you, if you could introduce yourselves. Henry, I know you've been in the education space as a technology leader for quite a while. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself. Superintendent Hughes, I know you've done quite a bit, especially as a leader and a speaker outside of Walton County Schools. If you could introduce yourself and also talk about some of your work there and maybe how that ties into the work that you do as a superintendent as well.
Absolutely.
Sure. All right, thanks, Elliot. I appreciate the introduction. And I'll just start off by saying I've been in education for about 40 years or so, maybe a little more. And I'm excited to be where I'm at right now. And it's a great pleasure and a great joy to be able to work in a school district that we know we're making a difference. We know that we are out, our main vision and goal for this school district is to be able to teach kids, have, create a learning environment so that it's advantageous for them to be able to grow and expand their education. And as we talk further, I think you'll see that it's the vision from the top where we're all in together in one agenda. We have one agenda in Walton County School District, and that's to educate kids and to make sure that children get the education they need. And basically, I think that'll just be the high level of kind of where we're at right now. And Superintendent Hughes will be able to expound on that. The only other thing in technology I'd like to say is that I've been in technology for about 25 years, and I've seen a lot of growth. And the big thing that I think has really made this district stand out is the collaboration from leadership and how we work together as a team. And no matter what we do, we're working together for that single goal, as I mentioned earlier, about educating children. And that is the key to success for Walton County in every aspect that we work on.
And thank you, Henry. Certainly appreciate the stellar job you do with IT, and thank you for that. And there's no doubt that people not only in Northwest Florida are talking about your leadership, but all over the country. Saeed, thank you for this opportunity to talk and share with you and your listening audience. I am A. Russell Hughes, Superintendent of Schools, Walton County. I've been in Northwest Florida all of my career, some 33 and a half years. Started this journey as a teacher. Ironically, I was a business education teacher. We'll talk more about that when we talk about how things have evolved, and they have evolved when it comes to technology. But I've been superintendent of schools 8 years in November 2024. Something very different and unique about Walton County School District is we are an elected school district. There are 41 elected superintendents in the state of Florida. There's 67 total. So 41 of us are elected. That means every 4 years I go out to the constituents, some 84,000 of them in Walton County, and I ask them to vote for me, unless I'm unopposed, which I am for the second time so far. but that is very unique. But really what it says is that we have a responsibility to all the constituents here in Walton County, all the populace here, and we have a responsibility to educate children, but it impacts the entire community. And what you may not know, and which I'd like to kind of in this introduction, we're the fastest growing county in the state, sixth in the country per capita. So we've grown leaps and bounds populace wise, which has also been one of the struggles, challenges, and really the things at the forefront of our mind of how we're going to take this migration, this growth, infuse it into what we have and have been for many years and still be successful. And hence, 7 years ago, as superintendent, we ranked number 35 in the state of Florida. And as you mentioned, Saeed, we are number 2 when it comes to assessments in the state of Florida out of 67. And we are number 3 when it comes to graduation rate. So we are have a really accelerated, and technology has been a great part of this. And we've had to put our minds together when we talk about collaboration, as far as every leader in this district, every component of our district to make it successful. And I know we'll talk about it later. So thank you so much for this. And I hope that introduction kind of gives you a perspective of where we are. Our geographical area spans from the most southern part of Alabama to the Gulf of Mexico, 26 miles of beaches.
All right. Well, you mentioned kind of going off of there, you mentioned the growth that you're seeing at the county level, and kind of and where you guys rank nationally with that growth is, I mean, surprising to me. Of course, I'm in Florida as well. I've seen all the growth that we've had living in the Tampa Bay area. I see the traffic change, all the home prices keep going up. So we know across the state we're growing. But to know you guys are number 1 in the state for growth and also number 6 in the country for growth, I mean, that's a really crazy statistic. So from a technology perspective, Henry, what does supporting growth or supporting your district that's growing so rapidly while also trying to maintain, the initiatives that you have for normal day-to-day business, how do you manage that? How do you kind of, I guess, go back and forth between the short term and the long term?
So, basically, I'm going to go back to the leadership aspect of it.
Mhm.
If I didn't have leadership backing, I would not be able to do what I need to do to be able to help the schools out. So no matter what technology I'm using or how many people I have on my staff, I have the backing of the superintendent to move forward with different technologies that we know are going to support the classroom. The goal of technology is to be a supportive department that supports all the learning and teaching inside of a classroom. That is our main function as an IT department. And as long as we keep focused on that, I think we'll be able to reach our goals as far as maintaining that learning environment and making sure that the children of Walton County get the education that they deserve. And as far as long term, we have goals. We're currently looking to expand our techs at the schools. And the reason why the superintendent and I have been discussing this for a while is that we want to give the schools the best support that we can. And one of the things that we decided we wanted to do is put a tech at each school site so that they will have somebody there at all times to be able to help them do every single thing that they're doing as far as testing, making sure that the computers are operating properly, that the digital panels are working, that every single aspect of technology is being addressed, not only through the year, but also in the summertime, reimaging computers, making sure that every computer is ready to go when the students come back in the fall, and making sure that the inventory of all the devices and everything that's tied into technology in that aspect, that is the goal of this district, to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the principals, the teachers, and the students of Walton County.
Okay, fantastic. And I think there was something that we had discussed as we were kind of preparing for this session is, um, you know, what are the changes that you're seeing that are technologies doing to shape long-term and short-term strategy? And you answered that there, Henry, with that. Superintendent Hughes, from your perspective, especially with all the growth, what does that mean to you? How do you, I guess, navigate that?
W- Very, very good question. And just think about this when it comes to technology. It really starts with one of the components we have in our core values, and we call it EPIC: excellence, professionalism, innovation, and collaboration. It starts with innovation. Now, imagine the complexity that we have here with technology and how valuable it is for the leadership of Henry Martin in this component. Imagine, like we talked about, the growth, the migration. We have exceeded the numbers for Florida and had to go to them and say, listen, our growth is different from everywhere else. It is not by birth rate. It is by migration. So
Mm.
imagine literally we've had people move from every state in the country to Walton County this past year. And we're
Oh,
taking
wow.
those people from these different varying experiences with technology. Some were no technology, some were very expanded, futuristic technology, and they're converging on one spot. And we're growing and having to manage the complexity of taking all of those people from those varying areas and experiences and sit them here and still get success. So it comes with innovation from Henry. It comes with collaboration, another component in our epic acrostic, where we have to collaborate and say, okay, this student's coming from here, not familiar with technology, but we have to really indulge them in the technology and make them successful in a very quick way because they become a cohort once they move here, and we have to make it work. So now we have this kind of migration coming here. We have the implementation and the innovation from IT, Henry Martin and his group, and then we have to really kind of trickle that down to those who are teaching in the classroom to make sure every child in our district, and we do mean every child, all students will learn. All students will have access to top quality global education, worldwide education, and we got to make it work for them. So it really is a tiered approach that demands collaboration. Our core values demand us to be innovative. And then really making sure that all of those merge and mesh. So in the end, we can have successful children, hence moving from 35 to number two in less than 7 years.
Hmm. That's fantastic. Um, Something that we had talked about, Superintendent Hughes, at the PACE event last year was the way that you have used data over time to pinpoint which areas are your strengths and which areas are your weaknesses. Can you take us through a little bit of your, I guess, how did you determine that you could utilize data in that way? I don't know if it's a common thing across K-12 for superintendents or leadership in K-12 to get that granular with the data? Are you doing something that's very rare? Are you, doing something that's very common? And what does data mean for you as a district leader?
Thank you much. Thank you so much for that question as well. I have a term that I use, I've coined: "In God we trust." We are in the state of Florida. In God we
Hmm.
trust, but everybody else bring data.
Okay.
So what it is in my mind abnormal. It is not really the constant for every leader. Everyone talks about data, but the
Hmm.
reality is data is not effective or measurable unless we really look at it for decision making. So what we do is we gather data and we try to do it in its most granular aspect. So when everybody else looks at um, proficiency, we look at proficiency, learning gains, and each student how far they've learned, what they've taken. We've looked at their history of performance to try to figure out where we may have hiccups. Do we find trends? We really got to a granular support because we really excelled so quickly. Our trajectory with performance of students, where we had to find out, okay, we went from 35 to number two in 7 years. How do we get to number one? What's different? So we really kind of disaggregated our data to find out, okay, which which ethnicity, how are they doing? What gender, male or female? We really narrowed down the performance of students where we saw that our white male students were not growing at the rate of some of our white female students. So we looked at what the differences were. We did something that was very, very innovative, where we looked at the students who were in our what we call them level three courses, advanced courses, and we found that our African American students were not matching the ELL students in their level 3 honors courses, dual enrollment. So we went to those students and said, we're going to challenge you. We went to those parents who were okay with them making A's on their report cards, but they weren't being challenged to their most cognitive level, the best cognitive level that we could say, we got to get more out of you. And what we know is the resiliency of children is probably something that can overwhelm and it take a lot of people by surprise. But we know that they can do a lot more than we expected them. So we have high expectations without excuse. So we took ourselves and we grew ourselves to say, we're going to challenge you as a district to do something that is uncandid. And then we're going to challenge students who are not used to this kind of cognitive instruction or space. And we're going to challenge them to do it. And guess what? They rose to the occasion. We have, and what they call it, the opportunity gap, when you have those gaps in different ethnicities or cohorts or population or subgroups, we have narrowed and almost eliminated the gap of students by percentage-wise who are taking those level 3 courses. So we don't allow any gaps in our subgroups to hinder our success.
And you mentioned your vision and how your data drives or supports your mission. I really want to discuss the topic of building a vision or a mission for an organization. But there's a question I want to ask Henry and this is something I think comes up a lot, and you can let me know from your perspective when you're speaking to other leaders, if you're seeing positive change in that space, or maybe if other leaders might be lagging behind. But a lot of times technical leaders will talk about their data, if we're looking at network performance or security threats and all these different things, and try to get non-technical leaders to understand our data so that they can understand why we're doing certain things or why we want to do certain things. But to Superintendent Hughes' point, if that data is not given context based on this is our goal, this is how this data aligns with our goal, it may not be clear what that data's value is. So from your perspective as a technical leader, how can you take the data that you get, the information that you have, the things that are important to you, and help others to understand what the value is of that, what it actually means from the perspective of the organization?
I think that when I'm actually going to implement or give a vision for technology, I always have to think back of why are we doing this?
Mhm.
Why do we want to implement a certain technology? And what I have to do within myself is figure out, is this lining up with the district's initiative? Are we doing something to help curriculum or support curriculum in the classroom? Are we doing something to make it easier for students and teachers to be able to get online, to be able to teach, to be able to learn? So that's one of the big things that drives a different technology. I will say there's things that we actually have to do that aren't necessarily things that we'd like to do, and that's cybersecurity. There's things that we have to be cognizant of to make sure that we try to keep the bad actors out of our environment. So that's the things where we try to do things in security, but also notifying leadership on why we do it. It's not that we're just implementing cybersecurity, but why did we do that? Why are we, sending out campaigns to staff members through their emails so that they can understand and be aware of the people that are trying to influence them and have them give up their accounts and things of that nature.
Saeed, may I put an addendum onto that?
Mm-hmm.
Very powerful. What Henry and you have kind of put in motion here. What we really have to do is make sure that the IT data is translatable and to actual impact data.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just we put these many computers in schools, but how did that impact? What was the impact of that number? Okay, that we say, hey, but we're 1-to-1. Okay, 1-to-1 means what? How does it translate into impact data that culminates into success? And when it does culminate into success, how can we measure it? How do we measure that success? Okay, so we have to really work collaboratively, and that's why Henry Martin is on my cabinet. 8 leaders who run my district, because we want to know that IT is able to communicate and measure everything they do into a data point that translates and can be articulated into impact data. How have what we done by IT, which is normally quote unquote behind the scenes, making the inner workings work, but how does that translate into the impact it has on success?
Yeah. Henry, if I can kind of point it back to you, do you see positive change from your colleagues or counterparts as it comes to communicating data or technical things to non-technical leaders? Do you see more leaders in your role making an effort to align what they're doing within their department to their organization's mission or vision? Or do you think that's something that, maybe we need to encourage more of within our space?
I think that more and more leaders are actually moving in that direction, but we're still not there yet. There are still many technology directors or CIOs or CTOs that aren't at the cabinet level, and unfortunately, they aren't able to express exactly what is going on at the technology level. And to make it even more personal, I think it's the relationships that we have at our cabinet level with the superintendent that makes this really work. We all understand that there's a certain goal that the superintendent has set out for us, and we are all pushing towards that goal and towards that mission. And because of the relationship we have with the superintendent, he can trust us when we say, hey, we think we would like to go this way, and this is the reason why. And so that relationship that we all have in leadership, to me, is imperative to be able to run a successful district, a company, or anything where leadership is making a decision, because we're all on the same page and we're all looking to strive to meet the same goals. That, to me, that is the most imperative thing that any leader can do, is be on the same page with the vision and mission of that company or that school district.
Okay, awesome. And Superintendent Hughes, we've hinted at your mission and your vision a few times with some of the questions and the answers that have come up here. What did it take to build the mission and the vision that you built for Walton County Schools? Is this mission something that you've always believed in as an educator? Is this a vision that you put together specifically for Walton after becoming superintendent? What was that process for you?
Great question again. I actually wrote every mission and vision statement for every business I led, every school. I wrote the mission because it has to be right now. You have to take what you have, take what you receive, put in a mission that has an outcome that culminates in where you want to be. So I wrote the mission, preparing the whole child for a life of success. In the vision, I wrote, we want to be the #1 school district in the state of Florida. That was my first year. I was so adamant that that was going to be the case. I found out we were number 35, and I said, hey, boldly, #1. That's my end result. That's my outcome. That's where I want it to be. I will never forget, my board said, basically, settle down. Let's go one place a year until we get to #1. That's literally written right now in our vision statement. And I just said to them last at the beginning of this year, it would have taken me 35 years as superintendent to get there. Unacceptable. Unacceptable, because it was so bold. It was so innovative. It was so aspiring, but I knew where I wanted to get. And I didn't know how, I didn't realize it was going to be this short of time, but I knew where I wanted to get. That was the outcome. So I wrote it for this district at that time, because I knew we had the components to get there. And I knew new leadership was going to direct us in that path. So the hiring of a stellar leader like Henry Martin in the IT department was a great, he was hired before I got here, but really getting him in the conversations, in the mix, coming out with these specific outcomes and desires, we were going to get there.
Fantastic. And it's funny you mentioned, I can't remember the name of the book, but there's a book that talks about what allows an organization to survive over generations compared to the organizations that, maybe didn't survive long term. And one of the things they talk about are, they call them BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. So the things that sound crazy to everybody else, but as an organization, we all know that we are committed to this, no matter what. Even if we fail, it doesn't matter. It's about pursuing this crazy thing. And Like you said, if you try to go slow and steady for everything, you're going to end up taking 50 years to get someplace. So
That's
you
right.
can't do
That's
that.
right.
Henry, from an IT perspective, Superintendent Hughes mentioned, I think it was the reading goal, correct? That's the one you mentioned to number one. The reading goal was your reading goal was to get to number one from
That was the
35.
district goal. That was
That was the
actually the
district goal.
district goal to get to number one. We were number 35, and I
Hmm.
want to be number one, period, in all
So,
areas. And reading is a component, but it
mhm,
has actually for the state of Florida, we have 21 assessed areas.
okay.
Okay. And I wanted to be number one when we merged all those together. And right now we rank top 5 in 13 out of 21, top 10, 16 out of 21 areas.
Okay, fantastic. So Henry, if we're just looking at the reading component, how does technology tie into reading for the district? What are some of the ways that your department has worked to support that initiative, whether it's, like Superintendent Hughes mentioned, supporting additional computer labs or things of that nature? What's an aspect of your work that you believe has played a part in that?
I think that one of the biggest things that helps me in providing a service to curriculum, to education, is listening to what's going on to the classroom.
Mm,
I need to know what they need inside of a classroom. I can always put technology in a classroom, but is that what they need? Is
mm,
this the technology that's going to help them to get the students get motivated to do what they need to do? So going back to the relationship piece, I have to be in great relationships with my academic people, my curriculum people. I need to understand what they're doing. I can't work in a silo. I have to be working hand in hand with the rest of the leaders in here so I can understand what the entire mission is. Not just putting technology out there, but putting a service that's going to support the education that the superintendent has driven to be a number one district. So,
mm.
it's not just about technology and it's not about any one single department. It's about us working together as a single force, making things happen in Walton County.
Okay.
And Saeed, may I add to that what
Hmm.
Henry? I don't. He'll tell you if you probably nail him down to do it. But let me tell you something. We call this the experience.
Mm.
What
Hmm.
this IT leader did was he went into a classroom, I think 4 days. How many days
Couple
was
of
it?
days.
Couple of days in an elementary class and was assigned to teach or substitute in that class.
Oh, wow.
Now that's commitment. That
Hmm.
is trying to say, okay, let me really figure out how IT that normally sits in a room in an area do their thing, send it all out, maybe do some training, and see you later. He
Hmm.
goes in and involves himself in the actual instruction with 20 children. Fourth grade
Hmm.
was it, Henry?
Fourth grade.
Fourth grade, and had to say, okay, I got to keep these children engaged. If technology breaks down, I got to make sure they don't break down and instruction doesn't break down and the
Hmm.
principal doesn't walk in seeing all of this chaos. So he had to really utilize technology, really indulge himself into the experience. I call it the experience, and dealt with those children in the classroom. So he knows exactly what teachers are going through because he went and experienced it.
Hmm.
So it was real to him, and never has he forgotten. Someday you can talk to him about it. He hadn't forgotten it.
Yeah.
And so when we talk at the table with curriculum instruction, when we talk at safety, when we talk about teachers, he knows firsthand those few days really allowing him to embrace and understand real life experiences in a classroom all day with children, and then try to imagine himself with a strong technology background not having correct, appropriate, applicable, and accurate technology in that setting on a daily basis.
And just one more thing onto that. And when I taught at that one school, I had an epiphany when I was in there because I was put into the position of a teacher and I was using a technology. It was an older technology at the time.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, how can a teacher utilize this and teach all day long? I said, it was giving me a hard time. It was not
Mhm.
working properly. And that's when the epiphany came to me is like, I need to be able to put a better technology in the classroom.
Mhm.
And it was when that was the time about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, that I started putting digital panels in the classroom. I wouldn't have had that experience if I wouldn't have been in the classroom teaching children. I was kind of hesitant, but I was so glad that I actually, because it changed my perspective on a lot of things.
So let that be a challenge from both perspectives. Any IT really want to know? I challenge you, dare you to put yourself in the shoes of that teacher
Absolutely.
for a day. Just try a day. Henry did 2 days, you try a day. And I dare you, superintendent or leader, put your IT leader into the working spaces of those who you employ.
Yeah. There's
Absolutely.
we had in our early days at DOF, we had a web development or software development project that we were working on, and it was for a property management company. And I asked the IT, the CIO, I asked her, does your team understand the impact of this software? Do they understand how, the leasing officers in those leasing offices are using its impact? And she goes, yeah, they would have to. And I kind of just stopped and thought to myself from the conversations that I had had with her guys, I was like, I don't think they do. I don't I don't think they know
Right.
how this software is actually being used on a day-to-day basis. So when you guys are talking about being in the classroom and seeing how, like Henry, you're saying, I think you said your smart boards, how those resources are impacting education day to day. It's one thing for us to show you something cool in a demo and
Right.
you get a proof of concept out and someone's like, yeah, it's nice, I like it. But 6 months, a year from now, when one kid is being disruptive and you're trying to keep everybody else on track, is this thing going to be the next headache I have to deal with, or is it going to help me?
When you go into a classroom and the teacher says, we so appreciate what you've done for us, and
Hmm.
putting these panels in there, and then watch the kids utilizing it, and they're using these day after day. It makes you feel good that you're doing something that's helping out the teachers be able to teach to the best that they can, and giving an exciting, engaging learning experience for a student.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys bringing that up. That's an awesome example. I think there were Superintendent Hughes, I think you said you've been doing this for 33 years, and I'm not gonna say anything about that's as long as I've been alive. I'm not gonna mention anything like that.
Thank you, Saeed. I appreciate you.
But one question I had is, how do you hope educators will use technology over time? How do you think that is already evolving? And is there any way that you really hope it continues to evolve or change?
Absolutely. And when you talk about evolving and
Hmm.
evolution, literally, I was a business education major. And
Hmm.
as a teacher, I taught business machines, typing, basis of computers, things of that nature, the calculator.
Hmm.
33 and a half years ago, that's what I started out teaching. And business
Hmm.
law and management, which I love, taught math as well. But when you're talking about teaching business machines, and now all the machines that I had to teach in 180 days, 33 and a half years ago, can be placed in front of you with one machine. So it has evolved. I mean, just magnanimously, it has
Hmm.
evolved at a rate that is almost immeasurable. I cannot do, as Henry and my PIO was setting up this podcast. I was going, I wish I could really help you. I taught business machines. I taught computers, and I could not help these two gentlemen set this up. It has evolved exponentially, and the trajectory and the speed by which it's done that, it baffles me. But
Hmm.
really, in the end, my exclusive hope and desire is that it will ultimately culminate around the success of students and the benefits, the outcomes. What are children going to get out of this?
Hmm.
They We have to embrace the fact that children are addicted to screens,
Hmm.
period. But how is this screen going to impact the life, the success, the the livelihood of every child, each individual child? I don't use technology as much as I used to. I use it on a daily basis, but for sole purposes because I'm so busy. 22 schools, 12,000 children.
Hmm.
But utilizing the technology to make sure it is effective is what I hope that every educator embraces. Whatever your role is, just make sure that the technology we use ends in some successful culmination that impacts the life of a child for the good.
Hmm. And Henry, I guess, is your Is your kind of what you've seen kind of the same? I think you started on the server and the database side, correct? When you were in like your early years as an IT professional?
That's correct. Actually, I initially started as a mainframe operator,
Okay.
and then went up to server and database and Unix administrator, and then into management. But like the new technology that's coming, and the big buzzword right now is AI, artificial learning,
Hmm.
machine learning. Those are the new tools for the future, and that we have to grasp those tools
Hmm.
and make sure that we're utilizing those properly so that kids are using them in a way that's proper. Just like when we started this digital age, when computers and the internet came out, we have to be able to teach the students how to be digital citizens. And it's going to be the same thing with AI. We have to be able to make sure that they're utilizing it in a way that's helping them to think, helping them to grow, giving teachers the tools to be able to minimize some of the long strenuous jobs as far as creating lesson plans, where
Hmm.
now it can be done through AI. And
Hmm.
so there's many things that can help us, but we have to do it in the proper way. We have to make sure that we're not doing it that so it's hurting the child, but it's going to help the child. It's going to help the teacher. So those are the type of things that we're going to be looking forward for the future, is that we take the new technology and make sure it works for us and that it doesn't work against us.
Hmm. I appreciate it. I think we're coming to the end of our time, but I did have one more question. Just in a general sense, within education and as well as outside of education, what aspects of your success as a district do you believe can be a lesson to other districts and organizations about building a vision or a mission?
Start with me. I really believe the fact that we have to embrace the reality of the need and responsibility we have as leaders.
Mm.
We have to embrace the fact that IT is a part of our world. We have to embrace the fact that its evolution is a part of what is going to remain even after we're not here. And we want to make sure that the vital use and the effective use of these programs, these tools, are going to be to the good of our children, the good of our country, the good of our world. So we have to embrace it. I think it is imperative that we have authentic collaboration and a communication. And I mean that in the sense that when it's authentic, we have this back and forth that we toggle with. Sometimes I have to push back, Henry, is this right? And he has to go, sir, if we want to do this, we have to do this. So we have this
Mm.
back and forth because I'm standing on the foundation of my responsibility to educate. He is standing on the knowledge that he has a tool that can help educate. And then I have to decipher, is it helping, hurting, and where do we draw the line with
Mm.
AI? Where do we draw the line with professional development? Where do we draw the line with inundating everyone into this space? So it takes vital, effective, paramount exchange of intellectual property, intellectual knowledge, and I wrote the cognitive value of the whole unit.
Mm.
What will this collaboration? What will this exchange? What will this communication? What does this seamless walking together end in? How will it impact the whole unit? I
Mm.
won't. And here's a fact. The only way we can be number one, and this is why Henry Martin and my cabinet members are there, is that every part of us has to be number one. There are
Mm.
no acceptable rates of casualties when it comes to children, and there are
Mm.
no acceptable units, parts, or departments of my team that I can allow to be less than stellar, to
Mm.
include IT. And it has to be proven. Give me the measurables, give me the outcomes, show me the success. So I think collaboration, communication, the exchange of intellectual property, intellectual knowledge, cognitive value, that impacts the whole unit. Hence, we want to be number one. That's
Mm.
period. Period. That's every part. IT has to be number one for us to be number one. Curriculum
Mm.
instruction has to be number one for us to be number one. Safety has to be number one for us to be number one.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And Henry, I guess is from your perspective as CIO, I guess what are some of the things that your success as a district, how does that shape, your vision and your process as a leader within your department?
Well, I think we've actually touched on a lot of these, but the one thing I think that's very important as far as a technology leader is that they have the relationship with the superintendent. They have the relationship at the cabinet level. I talk to a lot of IT leaders in the district that don't have that seat, and a lot of times the technology is not expressed maybe as well as it should be. It doesn't reach to the proper ears. And that to me can be very detrimental to an IT department when leadership doesn't necessarily understand or can actually see how beneficial that product might be for education. So that relationship with leadership, the buy-in from technology, that they are constantly looking to not just put the new technology out there, but make sure they're putting the technology out there that teachers can utilize, educators can use to be able to help them do their job. Like I said earlier, technology is a support department. We aren't going to be leading anything throughout the district except supporting what the superintendent and the curriculum department had decided to move forward with. We will support that. And I think that's very, very important that a lot of IT leaders understand that we are just a cog in this big gear, and we are one part that's extremely important. You can't have education anymore without technology. It's that important. But we aren't the only thing. We are just one piece of the puzzle. And with together, all of us working together, we can make that one impactful unit that can go out and affect education.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, everyone. Superintendent Hughes, I believe you're an author, correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
Do you mind plugging your book while we're at the end here?
Absolutely. It's ready, hot to be released really soon, but it's called
Okay.
Epic with One Opportunity.
Okay.
And we're excited about it's rolling out and coming to our communities, and we're excited about really telling the story about what Epic is, how it's developed, and where it could take everyone. Everyone can be Epic.
All right. Well, we'll have to come back and do this again when
Let's
that
do
comes
it.
out, and
Awesome.
give that a try. Henry, I appreciate you setting all this up from your side, and I appreciate getting the opportunity to work with you guys in Walton County. I know that through Viv, we've gotten to see a lot of the growth and improvement, and we're just along for the ride here with you. So hopefully you keep us along with you going forward, guys.
Absolutely. Thank
Sounds
you
good.
so much.
All right. Everyone, we appreciate you joining us today. Another edition of Service Driven University. And I think, do you guys have any social media links where people can find you or check you out?
Absolutely, we do.
Yeah, I mean, we're on Facebook
Hmm.
within several different platforms.
Hmm.
I don't want to say them all because I don't know every single one of them, but we do have a presence in social media, and I can get you some more information on that, Saeed, and give you all
Okay.
the exact links and everything like that. But yeah, we're out there. The superintendent does a podcast every month
Hmm.
and is giving the community updates. And I just want to say one more thing about that. Because of the communication we have towards the parents, towards the community, we're upfront with what we do. They know exactly where we stand. They don't have to wonder what are they doing? What are they doing with our kids? The superintendent is constantly giving updates on exactly what's going on in education in Walton County. And I think that makes a lot of parents feel at ease because they understand and they can hear what's going on. And it's not like there's this entity over there doing something, but we don't know what they're doing. We're as upfront as we can be in Walton County, and I think that makes everybody feel at ease so that we can explain to them exactly what's going on to education.
Fantastic. And we can include all of your social medias, whether district social medias or personal social medias, as part of the description when we post this to YouTube, as well as make it available on LinkedIn and Spotify. But we appreciate your time today, guys, and we look forward to our next conversation with you.
Thank you so
Sounds
much. We
good, Saeed.
appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you,
All
guys.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.